Hello, Galaxy! I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching the Locker Gnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short. I am streaming this live right now on Twitch, as I stream live on Twitch every night at 6 p.m. Feel free to join myself and the rest of the community every single night. Tonight, I'm going to be doing photo comparisons between Apple's iPhone 13 Pro Max and Samsung's Galaxy S21 Ultra. And, for the duration of these photo comparisons, or this particular video, I may refer to each phone differently, not by full names, like iPhone versus S21, or Apple versus Samsung. And I think you'll start to pick up on patterns, much like I picked up on patterns. The TLDR version of this, I am not impressed with the photo output from the iPhone. You're talking just regular photos. I was shocked, and here's why. I never really liked Samsung's camera output. I don't care about the size of the lenses. I don't care about the optics. I care about what the images look like. Can I work with them? Are they decent? Are they good? And what I found over and over again with the iPhone, I mean, we're talking like default settings, nothing tweaked. You've got some nice options, and I'll go through, each particular scenario as we get to it, but this was shocking. I got to admit, everyone's like, oh, iPhone camera, and iPhone camera, and iPhone camera. I'm like, yeah, I remember the iPhone camera. It's really good. Okay, I can't wait. And I'm like, what? The first night I had it, I compared the iPhone 13 Pro Max camera against the Pixel 4 XL in night mode, even in max settings on the iPhone. And the Pixel 4 XL stomped. So I really can't wait for the Pixel 6 Pro. And yes, I'll be using that camera to compare against the S21 as well as the new iPhone. So stay tuned for more videos like that if you happen to like what I'm doing in this video, and it's going to be a long one. So sit back and enjoy the ride. I'm sure you will, especially if you are watching live. So we're going to start with a dark shot, a night shot. This is on the S21. And I've got that's a zoomed in version of the iPhone. Apologies. I was doing some testing beforehand. This is the iPhone. So Samsung, Apple. Better one or better two? In my humble opinion, over and over again, Apple, as I zoomed in here, lost a lot of the darks. A lot. Like, dark is non-existent in dark mode, night mode. Max settings, like manually, you have to like manually maximize how many seconds a shot, the aperture is open, right? So, yeah, it was somewhat disappointing, because I expected better, and I never really liked Samsung's night shots compared to the Pixel. I'll zoom in here as well, and show you again. This is Apple and Samsung. Apple. I didn't even realize I had a Scout Trooper falling. Trooper down, Trooper down. So Apple shots tend to be warmer. The good news about any of those shots is, number one, that can be fixed in post, and you could also apply different photographic styles. I did not. I just went with default settings out of the gate with both of the devices. So between the two, in my humble opinion, there was a very clear winner. The Samsung device, I felt, had more work ability in terms of what you could do with the image after the fact versus the iPhone, which just seemed to be off, like, tremendously. So that was that shot. Moving on to another night mode shot. This is Samsung, Apple, S21, iPhone 13 Pro Max. So again, you can tell it's the iPhone because everything's warmer. You can see the light coming through the window as well as bouncing off the wood. It's a little more dull, yes. The night shot here is definitely a little more dull. I'm going to zoom in on the Goofy and show you another thing that I discovered. Samsung ended up in the process shrinking the image size, and I assume they did that because of noise. So the output was much. It was a bigger resolution on the iPhone 13, but again with the darks, there was a substantial issue, and again it was warm. So let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm gonna zoom in on another area just to show you. There's the darks. Look at the Lego Darth Vader there specifically, and on the iPhone, is just dark. Darks are gone. They're just gone. Versus, look at the Vader here, the Hikari Vader, the red Hikari Vader. Like, I couldn't recover that on the iPhone. There's no way. But at least on this, even at a lower resolution, I could recover it. And yeah, I feel that I could even boost the contrast and the exposure, maybe. But, like, give it a bit more vibrancy. But I can do that better on Samsung's image compared to Apple's. Again, this is night mode on both cameras. So, for a second time, as much as it was okay in this shot, the Apple shot, I felt like I could better salvage or use Samsung's device. Or Samsung's output from their device, sorry. Okay, so now we're moving on to indoor shots. There's Samsung and iPhone. Interesting decisions. The iPhone tended to be, in these types of situations, it skewed heavy toward dark, but I felt did a better job at representing the colors as they were. The Samsung's image tends to be a bit flat by comparison, especially if you're not using the scene optimizer, which that I know of I did not use on any of these images. I just went with defaults. So Apple, I will say this, did a fantastically better job with color representation than did Samsung. So this is Samsung, and that's Apple. You can see a lot more muddiness with the Samsung output compared to Apple's output. So this one, I was like, okay, this is where I was feeling really good about the iPhone camera. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is really decent. So again, Samsung, Apple. And I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, Apple won this round, right? You know, not that I'm keeping score, because, you know, it's all subjective. Moving on to another shelf. This is Samsung and Apple. So Apple is definitely a lot more bold, and the colors are a lot more vibrant. A lot more, almost to the point where it feels like Apple's camera is overexposed. And you know, I could always adjust that in post, but it feels like I have a lot more wiggle room with the white in a Samsung image than I do with Apple's. It just looks, this is Apple's shot in Samsung. And I've lost details here. And that happened over and over and over again with Apple's camera versus I still have the details in this particular image. Let me scroll down a bit. Oh, sorry. And do some comparisons between the Stormtroopers. So again, the darks were really, really dark. And that's where it just, I don't know. Maybe this was truer to life, but the Samsung image, like if you look at the top of the Stormtrooper helmets and like this tin wind-up Stormtrooper, like just dark. Versus, okay, we got some color, but, you know, we haven't lost any detail in the whites or the blacks. I'm telling you, this happened over and over and over again. So if you're an iPhone camera fan, I don't know what to tell you. But, like, this is definitely not as impressive as I was expecting it to be. So let's go to the next one here. Sorry. Wait a minute. This is, okay. Sorry. I realized after I zoomed in, this is a full shot. Let me go ahead and zoom out just to show you again. This is the full shot, and then this is actually a separate zoom in. So I'm going to go in a little further, punch in here. We've got Samsung, Apple. And this is the 3x optical zoom, and this is another failure, in my humble opinion. Okay, maybe that's an extreme word. I was very disappointed with the optical zoom, or the 3x zoom lens on the iPhone. And when I'm saying zoom, I don't do this. I don't do the croppy thing on anything. Like, I don't do the pinch to zoom and all that stuff. I press the button 3, so I know I'm at 3x, right? The telephoto. This is the telephoto on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. This versus Samsung. iPhone, details lost, muddied, dark, and Samsung. So if you look here in a shadow, you'll see some amount of a Stormtrooper behind in the Samsung image, but not the iPhone. So over and over and over again, especially in low light situations and even in brighter light situations like outdoors, the telephoto on the iPhone is it always, or seemingly always, came in second place to the Samsung. To my eyes, I'm like, maybe you think this is a better image than this one. Maybe, you know, you don't want to see the fabric in the Stormtrooper on the right. Right? It's just, it's different. You know, and there's even, like, this is the original image. Chromatic aberration in that Stormtrooper on the iPhone. Versus, sorry if I scrolled too far there. That's the top of the shelf. Nothing on the Samsung. Like, it was just, the 3X didn't impress as much as the 1X, in my humble opinion. But that's just my eyes. Here we have a landscape at 3X on the Samsung camera and 3X on the iPhone. So it feels like I got a bit more, the image is somewhat flat, but it seems like the greens in the trees were more pronounced on the Samsung camera versus like very darkened trees that should be green on the iPhone. Not to mention, we'll zoom in here. This is again this is the 3X optical zoom. This is the native. You're seeing here 100% native resolution when I zoom in on these images. iPhone, Samsung, iPhone 13, Apple, Samsung S21 Ultra. So, like the telephoto is muddy. Like, these images looks like it was a digital zoom, and this is not, I guarantee it was not a digital zoom, because it kept happening over and over and over again to the point where I'm like, am I doing something wrong? I quadruple check my settings. The 3X zoom on the Samsung camera is fantastically better over and over and over and over and over again. Indoor and outdoor, no light, low light, or plenty of light. Now, when it's zoomed out, like I said, the iPhone tended to be maybe truer to life colors, but the darks were really, really dark, and you'll find out that the brights happen to be overexposed, and HDR would rarely trigger. I'll get to that. Here's a somewhat complex shot, one of the very few shots where I feel the iPhone did a better job. This is the Samsung shot. The browns kind of look green versus a much warmer shot from the iPhone, and I would prefer a warmer shot. So this is the shot of the pantry area or cupboard area. So Samsung, iPhone. Either skew green or you skew red. You like one of two choices. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to zoom in on these details here. This is the iPhone, and this is at 3x magnification. This is a 3x telephoto. So at 3x. It seems that the Samsung did a better job with the details. iPhone got muddied out, but the iPhone did better job with color. Like, look at the area with the scissors, right? There's the Samsung, clear separation of objects, despite having an off color, a slightly greenish tint to the brown, versus a warmer tint, and I feel a loss of detail indoors at 3x zoom. So again, it's hard to pick a quote unquote winner. I'm just telling you, this is as I'm looking at them, the choices that I would go with. And I always prefer, if I have a choice, I would choose an image that still had detail but needed to have its colors tweaked, than an image that had less detail and didn't need its colors tweaked, because you can't bring that stuff back. Well, like once the data is lost, it's lost for good. Decided about the macro shot, and I love macro photography, and I have for a number of years. And this is a little Millennium Falcon in the palm of my hand. Here we've got the Samsung and the iPhone. Samsung, iPhone. So the iPhone was once again bold, like just bold. The darks are dark, and like when there's not a lot of light in the room, there's just not going to be a lot of light. It felt like, in this instance, let me go ahead and zoom in even closer and show you Samsung, iPhone. And here's why. Because this is when I first started to notice, in certain areas of this particular photo, the HDR on the iPhone would rarely trigger. I mean, I couldn't get an HDR shot, and there's no toggle for it. Like, it either goes or it doesn't. And more often than not, the iPhone doesn't trigger HDR at all. And that is a huge, like, negative in my book. Huge. Because look here at this area of detail on this macro shot versus this area. Like, blown out. Over and over and over and over and over again. The iPhone would blow out the whites or the bright areas of a shot. Like, it's, I mean, no matter what you did, like, it's just, you know, and I'm talking, like, point and shoot, point and click, right? No tweaking, no pro settings, nothing like that, because the average person isn't going to go that far. Can you get good images out of an iPhone? I'm no doubt. Could you get good images out of any phone? Absolutely. I'm just telling you, this is just, and also, I lost some area of detail with the light bouncing off my palm over here. Samsung, Apple. I mean, there was a better depth of field also on the Samsung. You can see back here as it fades, slightly less shallow on the iPhone. Okay, so an overhead shot of the iPhone on the Samsung device, S21, versus the iPhone 13. Now, in this case, I was kind of shocked. So I got skin tone, and I've got kind of an off-white, like the gray of a Millennium Falcon. This shot shocked me because the iPhone was green. And it was, I don't know if it was favoring my skin tone, and because it favored my skin tone, that it ended up, you know, unbalancing the white of the Millennium Falcon, but I feel that the shot from the Samsung camera, blew out fewer details, you know, did a better job with HDR, auto HDR, because you can't set HDR on the Samsung device either. Like, you can't force it doing HDR. Versus the iPhone. The iPhone, again, I don't know. Macro photography I love, but if I were to take a macro camera with me, everything that I've seen even to this point, me showcasing you to this point in this video, I would choose the Samsung S21 over Apple's iPhone 13 Pro Max. Like, this is just another example. Feel free, by the way, at any point you can pause the video on your own and go back and forth. So I've been 3D printing Halloween stuff. We've got the McDonald's Happy Meal buckets from 1985 and a nice little Vader pumpkin. By the way, speaking of, I don't know if you just heard, my 3D printer has finished another Fix-em Dude item for the pumpkin. You're not going to be able to see it. I'm not going to go full screen, but a Star Wars one. It came out perfect, Fix-em Dude. Thank you for the model help. So here we've got the Samsung camera. S21, iPhone 13. S21, iPhone 13. Again, you're seeing this is at a 3x zoom. So again, the Samsung tends to be flat, but at least it didn't lose any detail. If you look at the bucket, like, look at all that detail it's lost, dude, on the iPhone. Lost. Versus retained and maybe a bit flat. Lost, retained. So, you know, another thing I noticed, and I don't know which is more accurate, but it's like the face, I mean, the way that there must have been some lens correction that was happening different on the S21 versus the iPhone 13. But between, this is at a 3x here, I still can't believe it. Look at you can see the layer lines on the top of this particular pumpkin bucket. But here it's all muddy. Over and over and over again. And the same thing holds true on the Vader pumpkin here. So let's scroll over. You can see the layer lines. Maybe there's a little bit of chromatic aberration on the Samsung, but not horrible. As opposed to not seeing the layer lines on the iPhone here. Samsung, iPhone. Samsung, Apple. So then I decided, all right, well, then I'll do a 1x, right, in this shot. Let's just do a 1x, take the same shot, move a little closer to these objects. First, again, as it should be for every one of these comparisons, I may screw it up at some point, but Samsung, Apple. So you're seeing a few more details are picked up. The oranges are, like, freaking orange. Like, you know, like orange, almost to the point where it's like too orange. I thought Samsung was known for making everything vivid and too vibrant. I'm telling you, the iPhone holds that crown. So if you love vibrant images, you are going to love the default camera mode. But even then, to me, it comes down to detail. So let me go ahead and zoom in on the white bucket again. There's the iPhone, and you can see we've got some overexposure happening right here. But on the Samsung, on the S21, no. iPhone, Android. Sorry, I shouldn't just say Android. Apple, Samsung. The differences, as you know, I mean, you can just see, like, just the differences are night and day. I will say this about Apple's camera at 1x. There is a better depth of field at 1x here on the iPhone. Much better depth of field. Like, fantastically better depth of field. But it did blow out some image quality. These are all defaults, no photographic styles at all. And I triple checked. Nothing warm, nothing cool. This is middle. This is exactly what they say it's going to be. All right, now this is the thing. This blew me away. This is the first image I took that I realized the iPhone has a big problem with HDR. And here's the Samsung and the iPhone. Samsung, iPhone. I cannot manually trigger HDR. Like, I can't do it. And you can see it tried, but, like, I don't know if HDR is non-existent. I don't know if this is a difficult shot. The colors were great. Like, the colors popped off her shirt. The detail was fantastic. But the problem is, I lost all the detail. So at least I can go in post with the Samsung. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the Samsung versus the iPhone taken at the same time. I feel that at 1x, this is just a regular no zoom. Not only did the Samsung camera, this one, retain more detail, but it handled HDR. And the iPhone over and over and over again would blow it out at 1x. No zoom. No telephoto. It just shocked me. Shocked me. Like, seriously, I wasn't holding the camera wrong. I wasn't using it wrong. I know what the hell I'm doing. Like, this is just, when I'm doing these comparisons, like, this is just night and day. Pumpkins, outdoors, Samsung, iPhone. iPhone definitely went warmer. And the Samsung definitely toned it down a bit. And I would say the difference between these two, this one, I would probably prefer the iPhone, despite losing some of the darkness in between the pumpkins. Just it's a very vibrant image, and the orange pops. It's closer to real life color. But that said, I could always warm up this image and retain the detail. But, you know, just from a point and shoot, I was really happy with the iPhone on this one. Very happy with the iPhone. I mean, especially like the depth of field. This was a bit more flat, not just in color, but in depth on the Samsung versus Apple. Okay, so now we're going to have some fun. So it's just autumn. It's turning autumn here, so the leaves are starting to change colors. I probably should have held off this video for another week, but I hope that by the time a Pixel 6 Pro ships, the leaves will still be on the trees. I don't get review units, unfortunately, so I won't be able to get one immediately. But I really want to get some autumn leaf shots because I love autumn in the trees around here. So here we have Samsung, iPhone. So iPhones, again, the darks are dark here. The colors are vibrant. But even Samsung, the colors are vibrant. But the darks aren't lost in the trees. Where we may start noticing a difference, I'm just going to zoom in up here. This is Samsung. This is Apple. This is a telephoto. This is at 3x. Apple over-sharpened. Big time. Samsung was fine. Normal. So, for some reason, the telephoto lens that Apple's using is... Well, it's in need of tweaking. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if they care. I didn't hear that much pushback from reviewers, so I'm sure it's going to get ignored unless someone writes about it. It's never going to get fixed. So, you get what you get. I don't care. This would be my choice. I would choose the Samsung over the iPhone here, especially for the zoom. I was talking about HDR and the iPhone 13 Pro Max having problems with HDR. This is one example where I actually have two iPhone examples, because I'm like, there's something that's just not right with the iPhone, and I don't think it's the lens. I think it's Apple's computational whatever the hell they're doing. This is Samsung, and this is Apple HDR. This is a shot that the iPhone snapped. I kid you not. This was taken on an iPhone. Oh, I know, I'm so biased for taking this photo. That's just... But I was like, dude, there's no chance. There's no chance. So I took another shot. This is also on the iPhone. But these two shots, 1x on the iPhone. But the iPhone had problems with HDR. Like over and over and over and over. It just didn't fire, or it was not... It was just over, it was blowing things out. Like, they were bad shots. This HDR shot, it seems like it came through, I thought did a pretty decent job. And so comparing the best of the Samsung, again, you kind of have a flat, it's very flat. Samsung skews more to flat, and Apple definitely goes the bolder route with defaults. And, you know, your choice is completely up to you. Like, what you like more. And so I'm going to zoom in on the... Oops, sorry, that was the wrong... You don't want to see that one again, ever. The level of detail. So you see a little more is retained in Samsung versus Apple. Seems I also had better depth of field here on the Samsung camera than I might had on the Apple camera. Alright, so everyone's into taking pictures of flowers. I'm not... vibrant Apple shot versus Samsung. So the Samsung, I think, did a good job. Apple's also did a very good job. Very, very, very colorful. Like the reds pop, explode, but almost to the point of annoyance. This is the Samsung S21 Ultra, and this is Apple's iPhone 13 Pro. And I feel like the colors are just too much, to the point where, like, you can see the difference. But this is the macro shot, by the way. These are both macro shots. I'm gonna zoom in. Apple, Samsung. So you can still see the white speckles on Samsung and a clear color separation between the magenta color on this petal versus the petal in the background. But if I go back to Apple, there's not that much of a difference. They almost bleed in together. And these are pistils, stamens. I need to bone up on my my flower terminology, as well as the loss of detail towards the middle. Darks tend to be really dark, and brights tend to be very bright on an iPhone camera versus a Samsung, which better balances the colors and the exposure. That's in my humble opinion. Samsung macro, Apple macro. Back to some good stuff. Star Wars. Now here's a shot that I felt that Apple did a better job with, if only because oh, I guess I can't show this because I did not drag the Apple image in. Oh, come on, Chris, are you for serious? Okay, so I'll have to talk you through it, I guess. Unless it may be in here somewhere, but it may be out of order. Basically, Apple did a better job with the shot because the colors were better and the darks didn't really matter too much. But it was the same as any other indoor shot, but I felt Apple did it. Great, now I am going to get accused. Hopefully it's in here somewhere. I did my best to order things, but the tab order may have gotten rearranged. A shot overhead of something 3D printed. The Sith Eternal on a pumpkin. Samsung, Apple. Between the two, I would say that the closer, truer to life color, even though it's maybe bumped up a bit, that contrast, I would say Apple has a better color, but I feel Samsung kept more detail. Look at all that stringing. I know, horrible. The sharpness in the stringing is higher, as well as the layer lines on the S21 versus the Pro Max. So again, I could always adjust color in post. Night mode, This is at night, actually. Samsung, Apple. Again, max exposure settings. So, it felt like Apple did a better job with the color, but it lost a lot of detail, specifically on the shelves, in the items on the shelves at night. Here's another good example. If I can zoom in over there. Apple, Samsung. Apple, Samsung. I feel the lens correction on the iPhone was better, as opposed to the Samsung, but Samsung kept most of the detail in the photo, which, in my humble opinion, takes precedence, because I can always adjust the other stuff in post. Both on night mode, both maximum settings. God, I really do hope I find that Yoda shelf now. It's in here, I swear! Okay, here's my promise. I promise you, I will upload both those images to the Discord server, okay? So don't like, oh, Chris, you just cut it out. No, go to the Discord server. There you go. You join the Discord server. Went with another macro flower shot. Don't have a lot of flowers around here. There's Samsung and the iPhone macro. Outdoors. Defaults. Samsung. Apple. I wish I was making this up. I really do. I just cannot. I cannot fathom. I did not like the Samsung camera at all. Like, at all. So this to me is hilarious. I spent $1,000 on an iPhone 13 Pro Max thinking that the cameras were best in class. Or I'm sorry, let me correct myself. The photo output. This is all point and shoot, people. This is like how most people take pictures. Samsung. Apple. S21 Ultra. iPhone 13. I mean, okay, you may like the darker colors. It's great, but look at all the detail that was lost inside this flower. Let's go ahead and just zoom in there. This is macro. Much more detail in the Samsung. Look, you can even see like little fibers. Versus Apple, it just gets muddied, and even the highlights are blown out on the iPhone camera. Just it's I don't know. The darks are just too dark. I don't know. I mean, all I'm doing is showing you the images that I took. So I think everyone needs to watch this, because especially if you're investing your money in an iPhone thinking the cameras are going to be great, they might be, but consider what you're missing. If you care about cameras on your phone, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. Samsung, Apple. Samsung actually has a little bit of blue in the sky, as there was. Apple pretty much killed it. Apple killed the blue in the sky. Samsung did a better job bringing out the color in the leaves. Apple basically just made everything dark. And granted, it was dark, but it was outdoors, early morning. Just gonna, once again say this is a 3x telephoto. I'm gonna zoom in at the top. I think it's a 3x telephoto. Maybe this is a 1x. Yeah, this is a 1x. So the Apple did a better job with sharpness, but color it didn't do as well as the Samsung. But you can see a little bit of chromatic aberration here in the Samsung. So they're winner Apple. At least I think this is a... Well, either way, I can't remember. Oh, wait. This wasn't a 1x. This was a 3x telephoto. I can tell by the Apple over sharpens in the on the 3x telephoto, and you can see the leaves there. Over sharpened on Apple. Yeah, this is a 3x. Apologies. 3x. Telephoto. Color, a little bit of blue in the sky on the Samsung, not on the Apple. Darks, colors, darker colors, details, lost details, over and over again. Here's another example where I felt the iPhone did a fantastically better job indoors. Even though the iPhone skews warm, there was warm light in the room, daylight, and I felt that it was truer to life color over and over again on the iPhone. That's true. I'll keep saying that. I'm not going to say it was a wash, but I will say that iPhone did a better job with this image. I feel. For the most part. I know. Don't pixel peep. Oops, sorry. That's the wrong shot. Ignore that, Vader. You didn't see that, Vader. But again, I'm going to show you that there were more details retained in the Samsung's image than in the iPhone image. But I happen to like the iPhone image a little more. Personally, it's all subjective, right? Now, okay, now we get to the exciting part. I love toy photography. I want to do more of it. I love doing more of it. You know, when I can get the time, because I want to try to stage the right shot. So, of course, I did some toy photography. Brought out a Black Series Darth Vader figure. And this is a 3X telephoto indoors. Samsung, you're gonna roll, dude. iPhone, 3X. Samsung, iPhone. Now, even if I got closer, this is as close as I could get with a focus. The detail, this is just night and day. This is the 3X telephoto on the iPhone versus the Samsung. It's just, oh man, I was not happy. I was like, to say disappointed is just an understatement. Okay, now this is me at 1X. This is me getting basically the macro shot. So you're going to see a lot of distortion between these two. But I felt Apple at least pulled out details more. But this is, again, where you see HDR didn't do a very good job because those highlights are blown out. Not just on the helmet, but specifically on the Imperial walls behind him. Those are space balls, by the way. Not space balls. Space walls. GTP space walls. So, Samsung, iPhone. 1X, up close, macro. The darks are dark, and the whites are usually blown out. This has been my experience. And yes, I've updated the latest software, and I'm sure, yes, Apple can fix it. Will they? I don't know. Do they see the problem? No idea. Don't care. This is the device that's out there right now. This is the device that everyone's getting. This is the device that you need to know before you spend $1,000 on it. Okay, so this is I want to say this is a telephoto on Vader. I'll know in a second. No, yes, this is a telephoto. And I can tell by here's how I can tell. Because the level of sharpening that Apple puts on its telephoto it becomes very, like, you start noticing patterns, and that's its pattern. So, Samsung, 3X telephoto, Apple. Samsung, I felt, did a better job with the bokeh than did Apple. Apple was kind of flattened. The highlights got blown out. The darks were really, really dark. I mean, I don't even have to zoom in for you to even tell what's going on with that. But, yeah, for toy photography, when I was just doing the Vader stuff, I'm like, this is not going to work. Indoor toy photography, even with ample light, like, it just wasn't, it wasn't working. I'll come back to it. I did get some good toy photos, but I will get to that. There's a 1X Vader standing, Samsung, Apple. So the highlights got blown out. The darks are really dark. I felt that the distortion was handled pretty well by both. Another thing that was kind of a dramatic difference, there was no depth of field on the 1X here, but remember I said earlier with the pumpkin array of 3D printed objects, Apple did a better job at 1X with the bokeh, the depth of field, and they did the same thing happened here. So the space walls are slightly out of focus. Let's go ahead and zoom in on Vader's nose. So this would be, if you want to take indoor shots, you're better with the iPhone. You're better off taking a 1X and then cropping afterwards than using the 3X telephoto, which sometimes can be challenging because you get different distortion, and you get I have to be careful because of the surroundings, what it is that I'm snapping. There is a fair amount of noise when you zoom in on Samsung's image versus Apple's image. But that said, the highlights are blown out on Vader's helmet and in the walls, the Imperial walls behind him. Muddy. I mean, it could be because of the depth of field. So I don't want to I'm not taking away points for that. I prefer the depth of field on the iPhone, but there's far more detail preservation at 1X. This is 1X, but I'm zoomed in on a Samsung output compared to iPhone 13 Pro Max. Like, I'm providing example after example, people. Like, this I was pretty happy with the shot. We've got, I know I need to do a better job with the space walls, but, Vader versus Ahsoka. Samsung. This is one that I posted to Twitter, and this is it. This is 3x? Yes, this is the 3x. So it's just like, again, Apple over sharpens, and you can tell, like, just everything is over sharpened. This is 3x at 100%. Same 3x 100%. Samsung, Apple. Let's get that. Samsung, Apple. At this point, I was like, there's no way I can do toy photography with this stuff. And this is at 1x for a 1x kind of macro. I guess it would be macro at this point between Samsung and Apple. 1x indoors, and we'll just zoom in on Ahsoka. 1x indoors. iPhone, Apple. Her look, just look at her look. Details preserved. You can see some HDR in the Imperial walls, but it's blown out here on Apple's. S21 Ultra, iPhone 13 Pro Max. Over and over and over again, no matter what. It's just, I can't even. So anyway, for toy photography, yeah, I was like, yeah, this is not good. Okay, so I wanted to get a good outdoor shot of Jedi, just to compare the two. 1x, and I feel that the colors are far more vibrant. Again, on Apple's iPhone, the colors are truer to life versus a slightly more dull output from Samsung. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna zoom in on Jedi's face for a second. And the reason why is I want you to look at the level of detail in her hair as it sweeps across, and just the darkness and how it's almost, her face is almost too dark versus a flatter face, and specifically the hairs, the strands on the, I can't zoom in any further unfortunately, but the strands are far more pronounced on her hair on Samsung's camera at 1x outdoors, and even the strands of this flower, the plant, sharper on Samsung, and some detail lost on the iPhone. But I mean, like I said, you start seeing the differences, and they're common. So it's not like, oh, this is an anomaly, Chris. That one photo is an anomaly. No, these same patterns keep popping up over and over and over again. Okay, now I wanted to try. I was like, okay, let's see how well they handle motion. So I had Jedi like do this, right? And because I wanted to see if I got any blur outdoors, plenty of light. Samsung, I try to snap them virtually at the same time. Apple, and they both captured fairly well motion in bright light. I was happy with that, because indoors, both of them sucked to the point where I was like, it's not even worth doing a comparison. That'd be where I would want to use a Pixel, because the Pixel does a very good job in low light situations and blur. But again, look at her face. Like, it's just darker. Look at the plants in the background. This is 1x, not telephoto. The plants have definition in the Samsung versus just this muddy mess of yellow on the iPhone. I cannot believe this. Outdoor shot, not much going on here, not much depth. But again, the iPhone did a better job with color. They painted some lollipops. There's nothing here that I think is, oh my god, look at this. This is horrible, or this is great. It's just that the iPhone did a better job with color versus Samsung flattening the image. So, fun. I thought it was kind of... in my humble opinion, when I do these kinds of comparisons, I take photos that I want to keep. I don't just do throwaway photos. Pretty much, I'm going to choose the best or my favorite of all the photos that I took in these photo comparisons. Because, I'm taking the pictures, I might as well want to keep them. You know what I'm saying? These aren't just throwaway to me. And by the way, if you want any of these images, I guess I could put them on Discord. Outdoor shot, more trees, more cloud detail on the S21 Galaxy Ultra, or however you say it, versus iPhone. Darker. Some exposures in the clouds blown out. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to zoom in at the tip top of the tree. And there. This is a 3x telephoto. Hang on, honey. I'm doing a little bit of work. So this is I'm zoomed in all the way on a telephoto image on each one of the shots. So the clouds got blown out. And by the way, I have seen a couple of reviews that talk about this problem happening on their devices as well. So the problem of exposure getting blown out, or HDR just not doing its thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, HDR on the iPhone 13 Pro Max, where it counts, is non-existent. And that's been my experience. Samsung, iPhone. Between these two, I want to say that the iPhone captured a better image, like in terms of vibrancy. This is and it's skewed warmer. iPhone, Samsung. iPhone, Samsung. Let's see here. What would be a good area to zoom in on? Okay, let's do that. So, Samsung, iPhone. I did my best to stand in the exact same spot, too. So, for the most part, I feel that the iPhone did a pretty good job with this. And even if there is over-sharpening in some of the... Well, let me just zoom out and, like, re-zoom in. It's not that prevalent in this shot. Samsung, iPhone. I felt that Samsung did a better job retaining the gray in the sky than the iPhone, and the iPhone was a brighter image. So between the two, if I was like, okay, you only can pick one of these two, I would probably pick the iPhone image. Just by eye. See, I don't care what camera takes the photo. I just want a good photo! Another tree. I love taking pictures of autumn trees around here. iPhone, Samsung. Or I guess S21, iPhone 13 Pro Max. Flatter, darker, and let me zoom in there. Darker, to the point where the reds got muddied. Versus the reds kind of bleeding in together, but at least there's somewhat more definition between each one of the leaves. Samsung, Apple. You're seeing the patterns, or you should be. So I thought this was an interesting test. Apple, Samsung. That was the first one I showed. So S21 Ultra, iPhone 13 Pro Max. Dark, 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 dark. And if I zoom in, let's zoom in on the trees here. There's a lot more preservation of detail on the Samsung than the Apple. This is, I believe this is a 1x shot too. There's no telephoto on this. For definition, I feel like the Samsung edged it out. It just feels like I'm looking at separate leaves versus just a mass of leaves brought in together. There's not too much, and I can't zoom in any further here. But between the two, I think I prefer the flatter shot that I can boost in post compared to the darks that I'm not sure I'd ever be able to recapture. Everyone's got a preference. I don't care what yours is. Another outdoor shot. So the Samsung, seemingly overexposed. iPhone here. This is a telephoto. So it's not. I mean, telephoto's got over sharpened, but we're still dark. Samsung, iPhone. iPhone probably had truer to life colors. iPhone, Samsung. I know I'm not saying these labels the same way every time, but you know, I warned you in the beginning. Galaxy S21 Ultra, iPhone 13. So here, this was interesting because Samsung did not pick out a lot of the blue in the sky versus Apple, which almost made it over blue. Like the gray clouds were like blue, like they were the sky. It was very strange. Let's go ahead and zoom into the tippy top of that tree. So the blue you see in this image is not sky. Blue sky. Those are clouds. So they were closer to gray clouds. So Apple did a better job pulling out the color and independent detail on these leaves up here than did Samsung. which is interesting. But it also didn't turn gray skies blue. Let's zoom in here. Samsung, Apple. Apple was a little sharper, a little more sharp. You can see in the leaf definition here. Is a little softer on the Samsung. Now, we're getting to the end. Don't worry, everybody, breathe. I was not expecting this was going to be a short video, but I'm trying to take my time because y'all deserve it. I love toy photography, like I said, so I was like, all right, I did the indoor thing, wasn't happy. What happens if we take a Stormtrooper outside? So here we got the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, iPhone 13 Pro Max. Bolder on the iPhone compared to the Samsung, and that's important. Depth of field was, I would say, a wash between the two. And here's the other problem. I'm going to zoom in on the Stormtrooper's helmet here. As I said, Apple continued to have a problem with overexposing whites and darkening blacks. Look at the detail in the weapon as well as the helmet blown out on the iPhone versus details largely retained on the Galaxy. You see a little bit of blowout on the top of the helmet, but not as dramatic as on the iPhone. And the iPhone tended to be a little over-sharpened, too. And I found that to be the case over and over again. This is an outdoor shot, daylight. But otherwise, I thought a pretty fun shot. And last but not least, we have a trooper trooping. Troopers are going to troop. And the difference here, same settings, good depth of field in either one. For as much as I was doing my best to have the exact line up the exact same shot, couldn't exactly nail it. But you'll see just this, it's bolder, and the exposure is blown out on the iPhone versus this is the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra iPhone. You can see like in the mouth area, the details retained in the Samsung shot versus the iPhone. That was at I want to say this is at 3x telephoto. I want to say is at 1x. Both of these were at 1x, I believe. But even if not, like I just found the same issues over and over and over and over again. So, yeah. How else do I explain this? Can I even come close to explaining it any other way? In running it through the ringer, through its paces, and being very excited to get this, I still am going to keep it and use it, ironically, as a video camera in the live shot. So if you want, a video review, I don't know if I'm going to be doing video side by side because it takes a little bit more time to do. And by the way, if you're asking about portrait mode, I think portrait mode is a gimmick. I know, I try to stay away from features that both phones did not have or things that I found gimmicky. And portrait mode is definitely in the gimmick territory. But I will be using this as one of the live cameras because I tested it and it works very well. So, of course, you're more than welcome to join the live stream as I broadcast every night at 6 p.m. Pacific. On Twitch, the link is in the video description. You can find me there, Chris Pirillo. We have a lot of fun. That's basically the foundation for the community. And what keeps... Something sounds like it was rattling. As I said, I will be comparing this camera again to the Pixel 6 Pro. I'll be comparing this Pixel 6 Pro to the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. When that comes in, newer flagships, of course. Very happy to do that, especially if I get the device. I'm not going to be getting every single device that's out there because I can't afford that. But I appreciate you tuning in and watching this video. Certainly, if you watched it all the way through and got something from it, I hope to have been able to illuminate you further. And like I said, if I needed provide any amount of clarity, I would be happy to do so. I love you. I appreciate you. But at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices. And may the Force be with you always.